When FX released the series Feud, Bette and Joan, it promised us a front-row seat to one of Hollywood's juiciest rivalries. Susan Sarandon as Bette Davis, Jessica Lange as Joan Crawford. The glamour, the insults, the tension, it all felt larger than life. But here's the question. How much of what we saw was real, and how much was TV drama? Today, we're going to dive into the true story of Bette Davis and Joan Crawford, compare it with Feud, and ask why this decades-old rivalry still fascinates us. Spoiler alert, the truth is even more complicated than fiction. To understand the Davis-Crawford feud, we need to rewind back to the 1930s. Joan Crawford was already an MGM superstar, glamorous, polished, the studio's perfect product. Bette Davis, on the other hand, was building her career at Warner Brothers, known for her raw, fiery performances. From the start, they represented two different Hollywood ideals. Joan was the glossy movie queen, Bette was the serious actress. But what really lit the fuse? It wasn't just studio politics, it was personal. In 1935, Joan Crawford married actor Frank Tone. The problem? Bette Davis was deeply in love with him. She later admitted, "He was absolutely the most beautiful man I had ever met." Losing Tone to Joan wasn't just heartbreaking. It cemented the idea that Crawford had stolen something from her. In Feud, we see the bitterness right away, and that's rooted in truth. But what the show doesn't always capture is the nuance. For years, these women weren't constantly at war. They circled each other with a mix of envy, respect, and yes, occasional admiration. Still, the damage was done. Their rivalry had a foundation that would last for decades. Fast forward to 1962. Both actresses were past their prime in Hollywood terms. Bette, 54. Joan, 56. Leading roles had dried up. Enter Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, a psychological thriller that put the two together on screen for the first time. Now, this is where the feud became legendary. On set, the tension was electric. Some of the stories are almost too wild to believe. Joan allegedly put weights in her pockets during a scene where Bette had to drag her across the floor, just to make Bette struggle. In another scene, Bette supposedly kicked Joan in the head, hard enough to need stitches. Was it an accident? Bette claimed it was. Joan never believed her. Feud leans heavily into these behind-the-scenes battles, and honestly, most of them are based on real accounts, though they've definitely been dramatized. Still, the marketing team knew exactly what they were doing. The promise of two Hollywood rivals tearing each other apart fueled the movie's box office success. And it worked. Baby Jane became a hit, earning 5 Oscar nominations and giving both women a late career boost. Nowhere did the rivalry shine brighter or nastier than during award season. Bette Davis received an Oscar nomination for Baby Jane. Joan Crawford did not, and that's when the claws really came out. Joan launched a quiet campaign behind the scenes, convincing Academy members to vote for and Bancroft in A Miracle Worker. Why? Because if Bancroft won, she couldn't attend the ceremony, which meant Joan could accept the award on her behalf. And that's exactly what happened. On Oscar night, 1963, Bancroft won, and Joan Crawford, in a glittering silver gown, marched on stage, accepted the statue, and brushed right past a stunned Bette Davis. This moment is in Feud, and it's one of the few times the drama matches the reality. It was cold, calculated, and unforgettable. Even Davis admitted later, "I'll never forgive her for that." So what happened after the Oscar showdown? Both women continued to work, but their careers never regained their old sparkle. Bette Davis reinvented herself with character roles, sometimes even poking fun at her own image as a tough, bitter woman. She worked steadily into the 1980s, a survivor in every sense. Joan Crawford's later years were darker. After a few more films, she gradually withdrew from Hollywood. Her struggles with alcoholism deepened, and she became increasingly reclusive. By the time she died in 1977, she was far from the glamorous star she once embodied. Feud portrays their later years with sympathy, the loneliness, the fading spotlight. And while the show takes liberties, the truth is equally heartbreaking. The rivalry may have defined them in the public's eyes, But behind it were two women fighting against an industry that had no use for them once they aged past 50. So why are we still talking about this feud in 2025? Because it wasn't just about two women hating each other. It was about how Hollywood pits women against each other, especially powerful women. Joan and Bette were both talented, ambitious, and aging in an industry obsessed with youth. Instead of being celebrated, they were marketed as enemies. There's a tragic irony here. On their own, each was remarkable. Together, they're remembered mostly for their feud. In truth, there were moments of respect between them. After Joan died, Bette reportedly said, "You should never say bad things about the dead, only good." Joan Crawford is dead. Good. Classic Bette Davis, sharp to the end. But even in that cruel quip, you can hear something else. The weight of a rivalry that Hollywood never let them escape. So, was Feud accurate? Yes and no. It captured the tension, the pettiness, and the cruelty. But the real story was messier. Jealousy mixed with admiration, respect buried under bitterness, and two women shaped by an industry that thrived on conflict. Bette Davis and Joan Crawford may have been enemies, but together, they told us something important about Hollywood itself. That the real feud wasn't between them. It was between powerful women and the system that tried to control them. If you loved unraveling the drama behind Bette and Joan, just wait. Old Hollywood has plenty more secrets to spill. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and tell me which legendary feud or forgotten scandal is your favorite. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next deep dive into the glitz, grit, and gossip that shaped Tinseltown. Until then, stay curious, stay cinematic,